Welcome to the Game of Thrones podcast, the officially unofficial podcast for Game of Thrones on HBO. I'm Jim.
I'm Aaron.
And we just finished watching the last ever episode of Game of Thrones, 806. We don't know the title, thanks
73.
HBO.
They're just going to leave it this.
Yeah, just 73. No title for this one.
It's called. It's going to be called It's an Ending.
It's hashtag fan bankruptcy. What do you think? What do you think of this one?
You know, I think if you enjoyed the way the season's gone and you really like how everything was foreshadowed and you're digging everything they're putting down as far as Dany the Mad Queen, then this is probably a really great capper. And I think if you are in the crowd that sees there's a lot of shortcuts and unearned moments and things that don't necessarily flow thematically or character, then there's not much to salvage here. And you know, my barrier for enjoying this episode was, if you'll recall, me announcing this as the episode started. I just want this to not be the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't.
No,
it wasn't the stupidest thing I've ever seen. In fact, there's a lot of things I kept thinking, especially in the first 30 minutes or so, when they're showing stuff like Dark Demon Dany with Drogon's wings behind her. I'm like, oh man. Do you remember when I think people have done this with The Hobbit and the Star Wars prequels where anonymous people would cut together alternate takes to kind of this is the fan edit. I think there's going to be some fucking awesome fodder for fan edits in these last two seasons. But this felt, the Double D's wrote and directed this, and I felt like there's a lot of places outside of Flourish here or there where this kind of felt clunky. And Jon Snow going to Night's Watch is kind of cool, but I don't know what the Night's Watch is. I don't know. Seems like he's just going to go up north of Tormund, which is what he really wanted to do. Which, do I feel good about Grey Worm getting justice? There's just a whole lot of, I mean, we got here and this was an end, but we left what I was wanting and hoping for a long time ago. What did you think?
I mostly enjoyed this. Like I said, I think in the spoiler cast last week that I declared fan bankruptcy after that episode. Yeah, it took me a while, but my pockets were empty. I had to declare fan bankruptcy, and I think it was a good thing that I did because I kind of left all of the baggage of last episode behind, came in ready for people to, just do what they were going to do in response to what Dany did. Not worry about why she did it or anything like that. It happened. Let's move on. And I think that was the right attitude to come in with. Now, I'm a little curious why Jon was so hesitant, but I get it. He's an honorable man. He's made a vow. So it took a lot to turn him.
And he loved the woman, too.
He says he does. I never saw it, but okay.
Right.
But I like where they left basically every character. I like that they tried to sort of run the gamut of fan theories on how this thing was going to end and sort of play every angle and then fall on one that ultimately I think felt pretty good. I think I'm okay with Bran being the king and the North. I think the most satisfying thing is the North being independent. That's kind of what I figured. I either thought Sansa was going to be queen of the Seven Kingdoms or that the North would have to remain independent because I knew Jon was going to be king and she just didn't seem like she was going to bow to Dany.
The natural question of that is, so the North goes free. How long can Bran the Broken maintain? I think he's that Bran the Broken is going to be an apt moniker because I don't think there's going to be 6, 5, 3, 2. Mm-hmm. If there's two kingdoms swearing fealty to the Iron Throne at the end, well, I don't know what's not what it is, the non-Iron Throne at the end of this, then I don't know. Although
it does kick open the door for every other kingdom to say we're independent.
There's a couple of cool things. I really liked how Bran at the small councils, I'm going to try to find Drogon, and I'll let you to anything that the rest of the running the kingdom. That's kind of a cool concept. What if he's able to find him, and what if he's able to Worgen to him? And there's a kind of cool possibilities like that I liked. I honestly think that small council scene is one of the better ones. It's kind of it's funny. There's a couple things, like I said, it doesn't feel earned, like Bronn being on the small council at all.
Yeah, it's. I'm curious how Tyrion would ever trust a man like that.
Yeah,
but he did once before, and now that he's back in power, I guess he's returning to his old habits.
I really like some of the, like I said, the things that are going to be cool in the remix are Drogon awaking from his slumbering underneath a pile of rubble. I thought that was really cool. I really stole a page out of Dragonheart. playing a lot of homage. Like that's
Okay, with like the dragon that looked like a rock.
sure
that kind of
camouflage
thing.
as a rock. Drogon destroying the Iron Throne, I thought was a little hokey, but with what they were trying to go for in this season, I thought it was like it actually backed up the theme.
So the thing that I like about it most is everybody says, "Oh, these dragons are super intelligent, right?" And they you can't tell it just by looking at them, but they understand quite a bit more than people give them credit for. And that kind of showed me that that was true at the end. Like he sort of understood what Danny was pushing for all along,
Right.
and that enabled him, to
Yeah,
understand enough to destroy this throne.
I don't know the whole Drogon coming and being destroying the Iron Throne in a fit of pique, and then carrying off his mom in his claws. Like some of that, I don't know how well that worked for me.
Okay.
But I do like the idea that like it's funny because the show laughed at like the idea of democracy, like which again I don't think anyone has been calling for like one man one vote, one man one woman one vote democracy in Westeros, but the idea that it's essentially going to be like a House of Lords type of Kingsmoot situation. I think that's an appropriate. I'm gonna call qualified like internet points, like half internet points for that prediction. And I thought that was kind of the cool. I liked the Unsullied deciding to go to Nath and be like the Nath Islands Protection Force in memory of Missandei. I thought that was cool. I thought Arya's. What did you think of the fate of the 3 Stark children? So we already talked about Sansa being Queen in the North. She's the Queen in the North. I'm fine. That's cool. I'm fine with that.
Makes perfect sense.
I don't know. To me, like, especially the way everybody was looking at her during the King's Moot. I felt like there was a lot of people like, why not us? Like Jan Bronze, Royce. God, I'm having a hard time talking tonight. Is like, why not the Vale? Like, I think that's going to be trouble in the future, but Sansa being the Queen in the North, that's fine.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm a little confused by Arya's end. Like she doesn't want to be a lady. I get that. She wants to be some kind of fighter, but I don't know that. Yeah,
she's gonna quest.
Generic adventure did not ever seem to me like her goal. But I guess that's where they're going to leave her, and I'm not angry about it, right. I guess.
I wish there was a little bit more, I guess, nautical yearnings to her. Like I saw her of maybe being like a Kane from Kung Fu, wandering the land and like doing small things of justice, and like it'd be cool to see her like as a Westerosi Batman. Like, you don't know which town Arya's in, but if you're the pickpocket that's in, or God help you, you try to take advantage of a woman, she's going to fuck you up, but proper. Her being like a kind of like a sailing, I wish there was a little bit more to her yearning for that, because her, what it seemed like her arc was she wanted to be a knight or something of, some kind of fighter, some kind of soldier of justice. And it feels like, yeah, you're right. She's just doing, an Indiana Jones type of turn.
Sure. There was somebody who did get to be a knight, though. Sir Podrick.
On the Queen's Guard or the King's Guard. I really liked Bran's gold and blue kind of King's Guard motif.
Okay, I didn't take note of it, but I'll do that on my second watch.
Yeah, it's like bright gold and like a royal blue. It seemed like, I thought the scene of Brienne summing up just Jaime and the King's Guard, the White Book, was pretty nice.
She left out some of the racier bits, some of the juicier things.
Sure.
She could have set the record straight on a lot of stuff.
It'd be funny if it turned into her burn book. She's like, also Kingslayer. Mediocre in bed. Reputation largely unearned.
Sure.
I thought that was like, her recounting all the tales of his valor and bravery, and then trying to sum up at the end and like the emotional beat of died protecting his queen. Like that's tough for her to write. And I thought that's like, if you're going to go to this particular, it's so Brienne has sex with Jaime for one night. He betrays her, breaks her heart. Then she becomes the Lord Commander of the King's Guard, and she swore never to see another man, and she'll take that seriously. So one roll in the hay of Jaime Lannister, and that's it. I feel like that belonged in the White Book too. He's a heartbreaker. Don't trust him, ladies. What did you think? Okay. we can talk. Okay, okay. Still staying positive. Can we talk about Ghost and the "Are you fuckers happy now" scene?
No, because I can't stay
got?
positive on that. If you want to stay positive and talk about Ghost, I'm in a catch-22 here.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Because I think that does not make everything better.
Okay, because I'm pretty much at the end. Like I quite like the small council scene and how they kind of fade to the bickering of the running of the kingdom and kind of giving a preview of all that, and Tyrion trying to keep things light with a joke about stories of him being in brothels and whatnot. But I alluded this at the top of the podcast, but I really have a problem with Jon declaring, that he's going to take the black, and it does seem like he's just going to abandon his post, and there is no post there. Like, what? I wish the show had said something about, like, well, you're going to be Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, which their new bulwark is going to be resettling the Northmen and the wildlings in the Gift and the lands beyond the wall, and being like this administration to kind of like oversee all that. But it's like they didn't. So like there's a scene where Jon's leading all the wildlings north of the wall, and I kind of made this joke when the door slammed shut that Jon's like, all right now, you sons of bitches, the door's shut. If I ever catch you south of this wall, I'm gonna hang you. Like, what? Why are they all going north? Why isn't anyone staying here?
It seems to me like there isn't a Night's Watch. Like, there's a Night's Watch in name.
So they duped stupid ass Grey Worm, who
seems like it. Yeah,
that feels kind of shitty.
Because the ending very much to me feels like Jon going home. Like he did defect to the free folk, and now he's living. He's just gonna live out his days with them up there.
Right. I also thought it was shitty the Grey Worm. Like none of the people that helped, for in any shape or way, free Westeros, and the final shape of that looked pretty horrific. But like, none of the Unsullied or Dothraki are going to be integrated in any way. There's no one on that small council. Like, I thought when they said there's a Master of War vacant, Grey Worm would be perfect for that. Again, I like the fact that they went off to Noth, but it does seem kind of bitter that none of the people that sacrifice so many things are going to get to partake in any of the rebuilding and the potential rewards and prosperity that might go into that.
Yeah, where did the Dothraki even end up?
They just, I don't know, going to take Dany's campaign of freedom. They're going to be a real problem in Westeros. They're going to be just marauding around the continent for decades to come. You thought the Faith Militant was tough to corral. Wait until you see 20,000 Dothraki screamers just riding all over the range.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't think I remember seeing them in the end.
Okay, Ghost. We ready to bitch about Ghost?
Yeah, I mean, this doesn't make it okay. This doesn't make it okay, because Jon was perfectly willing to not say goodbye to Ghost, period. It was just sheer dumb luck that reunited them, and I think if they had him said a tearful goodbye to Ghost when he sent Ghost north, that the reunion would actually be even sweeter.
Yeah.
So everybody's saying, oh, they were saving it.
Yeah.
For the end. It doesn't make any sense for Jon to save it because he had no idea he would see Ghost again.
Yeah. I totally agree. This whole, like, you can't animate Ghost. I just, like, we can get I don't know. The whole scene with Drogon burning the Iron... I'm thinking about how expensive it was to animate him as a pile of rubble, and then him burning the Iron Throne, and him doing the, like, 1 minute staring back and forth with Jon Snow, and I'm like, God, it just really still pisses me off about this, the direwolf situation. I thought that in this one scene where Tyrion is in chains and for some reason is able to, be a part of this political process, it's the new fangled Kingsmoot, him telling this thing about, what really motivates people's stories got really dangerously meta, and I'm like, oh boy, I don't know if the Double Ds want to go in this direction.
After last week, it didn't feel right.
It's starting to feel a little self-congratulatory. Do you think... I don't know that it actually went over there to where people are going to... Well, no, people are going to definitely be lampooning this particular scene.
Oh, yeah.
It did
for sure. That and probably the one where, Sam gives the title of Song of Ice and Fire to the history book, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which is kind of a theory that was floating around.
Yeah. I don't know. What...
Yeah, I just think they went for something, maybe didn't quite understand that last episode was going to land like a... big nasty wet fart.
No, they do. I don't think they have any idea of what, and it's going to be interesting to see what kind of tone the special edition making of behind the scenes celebration that they're going to air this week. What did you think of Jaime dying in Cersei's arms beneath the shallow pool of rubble? That was a little like holy fuck for me.
Yeah, it didn't feel like that's what had happened after last episode.
Right.
That they had simply been hit with a few bricks.
Right.
It felt like the entire keep came down on them, but you know, you don't get a lot of scenes from this episode if the whole keep came down.
It's just such a weird emotional beat to serve. Like, you know what? Tyrion's just gonna not know if his brother or sister got away or not. We need to show him going down, like in this long cuts and walking down these tunnels, just so you know where he's going, and then climbing over this rubble and seeing the gold, and then digging them out so you can see, oh yes, they literally were in each other's arms. That, I mean, they wrote and directed this thing. They wanted us to see that scene. They got in the editing bay and they're like, yeah, that's what we need.
And I mean, I guess it's more of a Tyrion moment than, you know, Cersei or Jaime, and I'm fine with Tyrion moments. I want to say that is more about Jaime being dead than Cersei being dead. At least I hope so. I hope that's the vibe they're going for, and that's what I'm taking away from it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, what the hell?
If you're a person that was like really on board Dany as the Dark Queen and bought all the stuff and was really on board with her being crazy or that being a militarily sound tactic to burn King's Landing, what did you think about her join me on the dark side speech to Jon Snow? Do you think that worked for those people? Did it work on any level for you?
Yeah.
Did it seem weird that Dany was like after this? It does sell more to me like just a moment of craziness because she doesn't see any danger with Jon. Like she's got that wild-eyed. Now it's so clear to me, Jon. Now that I've unshackled from the bondage of morality and ethics, I can see clearly what needs to be done. And you'll love me still, won't you, Jon? Won't you? I mean, where did this Dany come from?
No, I mean the villains in any story, any good story anyway, always make a certain amount of sense to a certain number of characters, and I think, you know, if you're Grey Worm, if you're Jon, and you see this, maybe it doesn't have the same effect on me as a viewer, where I just go, okay, Dany's evil, and there's absolutely no redeeming her, and it's time to kill her. That's my reaction, but it clearly, and I think people who like maybe gave Dany a little more leeway on their her whole burning King's Landing thing,
yeah,
maybe they, you know, saw those scenes with Jon and said, okay, well, Jon loves her, and, you know, she's trying to do the right thing in the long run. I can see some kind of weird justification, but not in my head, man.
Well, it's funny because like there's a contingent of people trying to argue that what Dany did yesterday or last week was horrible, but like still militarily sound. Like it was a sound tactical decision to inspire fear, despite the double D's in the, you know, mini after episode special features last week saying, oh, it's just the military battle had been won. This was a rash kind of spur of the moment, kind of a frenzy that took over her. This episode, I think, made it very clear that no, she's just off her rocker.
Yeah.
Because like this is not the let it be fear then Dany. This is over that side of psychosis and now thinking that everybody's on board. And so I don't know. There's one thing I forgot that I quite liked that I want to mention, was during the King's Moot, the whole Edmure standing up to be like, I would like to throw my very mediocre hat into the ring, and just Sansa shutting it down.
Yeah.
And then him looking around to all the great lords and nobody's going to step forward, but no, hear him. That's pretty good.
A lot of good callbacks, I thought, and that's what you want to do at the end. You know, you want to give people, you want it to ring of Game of Thrones, and I think it did.
Yeah. Anything else we want to talk about?
I don't think so. We should find out what our audience wants.
This is the part where we have to say goodbye to everyone that's not a club member, because the Instant Talk podcast is for club members only. You can join at club.baldmove.com to become part of the discussion or to enjoy the Instant Talk part of the podcast. Without further ado, let's get to the live discussion. Bring Cecily into the mix.
I think I can do that.
Okay.
I'll talk and delay and talk.
Here
no
I am.
delay necessary.
Yeah, first thing I want to say is thanks to you guys for having me on this season, and thanks to everyone watching and listening for supporting us for all of these years. It's kind of bittersweet saying goodbye, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have been covering this thing in one form or another for all 8 seasons, and we've covered the first 3 seasons twice, and been, I mean, yeah.
I haven't.
Huh?
I haven't.
Yeah, well, okay, I have. Part of us has, and yeah, this is the end of an era. This is the biggest end of the era since probably, I don't know, Breaking Bad, stopping cover The Walking Dead, although it was a lot slower of a slide to the descent that I feel like we're at here with Game of Thrones, but
Yeah.
pretty steep fall off.
Yeah, I think there's also going to be plenty of time to, look back at it in the course of the next week of podcasts, and also we're going to be doing a wrap up.
Or like Tyrion has the double D's had Tyrion said, ask me in 10 years. Like please give us a decade to think about this before you pass judgment now.
First up, Jason W says episode title. I haven't verified this, but he says episode title is The Iron Throne. And Neighbor helpfully says that it should be called The Iron Puddle.
Yeah. The Iron Slag.
Yeah, the effects were really cool.
Point of
in
fact,
those
this
scenes.
is now the world's largest deposit of Valyrian steel.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
We still on the Valyrian Steel?
We're just going to go with
thing?
Dragonfire, yeah.
Okay.
I think we can see Archmaester Sam could at least, verify that theory.
Mm-hmm.
Neighbor also says that Bran helpfully brought his own chair.
I think he did.
Very prepared for that.
Yeah, he could see it.
The rolling throne now.
Yeah, he's not going to roll it, but somebody will.
Alyssa N says that this felt like a mutual breakup.
With like Game of Thrones in the audience?
Yeah, with the show.
Yeah, when can I get my box of stuff? I got some CDs, season 1 through 4 Blu-rays I need to get back. A couple T-shirts, some nice T-shirts. I got a letter opener that looks just like Longclaw. I need that back. Definitely gonna need that back.
I got 10 years of my life in there. Can I get that back? I'm just kidding. I don't hate, everything that we've done over the last 10 years, obviously.
No, I know.
Maybe over the last 10 days.
Yeah, it's kind of been it's been a little wind let down from beneath our wings for sure. Do we want to? I feel like we messed up by not talking about the pub crawl, because that was a legit fun thing to do. We were all excited for Game of Thrones before the episode.
We'll talk about it later.
It's too late. It's too late.
Hannah F says, how does a prisoner elect a king?
He gets everybody else to elect the king.
Yeah, he's just throwing out ideas. He's just throwing out ideas.
Dr. Nick says, what was worse? The worst thing was Brienne closing the book before the ink was dry.
Yeah, I said it's smeared all over the place. Nobody can read it.
Yeah.
Everything she wrote
Yeah.
is lost to the sands of time. I guess Bran would know. Bran would know.
Right.
Brian will know what that unsmeared copy. It now looks like the world's first Rorschach test, a Rorschach blot. What does this look like? It looks like sadness.
It looks like lost virginity.
This looks like Brienne's broken heart.
Yep.
Yes. Starheart says, what were Jon and the wildlings doing at the end? Was he escorting them back to their home?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's going to stay with them too.
Sternly warning them if they ever set foot south of the wall, they're going to bare minimum lose their left hand. If they've already lost their left hand, they're going to lose their neck. They're going to lose everything north of the neck.
Special Kale wants to know, since when are there words to the opening theme song?
Words?
Since the
Yeah.
final 2 minutes, I guess, of the episode. Didn't they have a choir singing in the last Game of Thrones theme play?
Yeah. During
the
I thought they
end.
were actually said, did I miss lyrics in the opening song?
No,
No,
it was
it was
at
the
the
last
end
one.
when they did the Game of Thrones theme.
Yeah, they've done that before.
Yeah. I saw on our forum somebody posted a really sweet video of a whole bunch of people, Tom Morello, the fucking Brad Paisley of all people, several other really good guitarists doing the Game of Thrones theme with Ramin Djawadi and the shaved headed Double D. Which one is he?
Oh, that's the Dan, right?
Yeah, apparently he plays a mean guitar too.
Does he really?
Yeah, he was shredding with him.
Ooh, some fat licks.
Yeah, actually, yeah, it's really good.
Licks of Dragonfire going up and down the fretboard. Oof. Devil came to Westeros.
Garrison says, can we all agree that Ghost finally getting his good boy rubs was the best scene in the finale?
No,
All right.
I
Yeah,
disagree.
I like-
it was
I
too
like-
little, too late.
I like Danny as Night on Bald Mountain. That was fucking cool. Drogon's wings behind her.
Oh,
that's gonna be
yeah.
Yeah,
another
that
good
was
desktop.
It's very.
That'll
cool.
be good if you want to be an unapologetic Danny fan, and you've got a Daenerys tattoo on you. Add the dragon wings. You're there.
There you go.
You're there. That's the fuck you to the world. She's still my queen.
Get all those babies that you named Daenerys or Khaleesi, tattoo dragon wings
Tattoo
on
dragon
them,
wings on their back, John like John Wick style.
like Norman Reedus style.
Kamish says, do you think the Double Ds would have been better off writing their own plot from the beginning rather than adapting for 4.5 seasons and then writing their own ending? Or would that have been worse? Did anyone...
No, I think it'd probably be worse. I just don't think they're as good writers as George Martin is.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to know because, to properly assign blame, I mean, clearly the person most at fault for the writing quality going off the rails is George Martin for not getting this done the way he wanted it done. Because we can't even, it's not fair to even evaluate this against his hypothetical, brilliant, superior type of work, because it doesn't exist. Two, I really wish I knew. Because my gut says that Dan and Dave kind of did a little soft shoe dance until right around season 6, trying to delay and kind of keep things moving, but not definitively go down any one thing before they got to their end game, and they were forced to, just go with what they had. I think if that theory is correct, then maybe in hindsight they'd been better off to go back right after season 4 and just start blazing their own trail to somewhere that they wanted to go, someplace that would be, better fit where they, because, and again, that's just if I'm right, because if they actually were blazing their own trail since season 4, then boys, you guys led us an interesting path. But it feels like they had Martin's endpoints and we're more or less trying to aim towards that with a whole bunch of missing pieces. That's something that Anthony and I are going to do on the spoiler edition this week. We're going to try to figure out, assuming that everything we saw in this episode is more or less the bullet points that Martin gave us. And let's put back things on the board like Vitarian Greyjoy and the Dragon Horn and the Horn of Joramun and the whole Dornish intrigue and fake Aegon the Targaryen perhaps. So if you put that and start saying, okay, instead of this, maybe these people, maybe some of this stuff will make more sense. But as it is, I remember thinking last season, and I think I said as much in the wrap-up podcast, I think if next season is really good, season 8, then a lot of the flaws in season 7 are going to be forgiven by and large. And I think if season 8 is seen as a critical kind of failure, then a lot of people are going to go back and see and really tear apart season 7. And I feel like that's what's happening. Season 7 and season 8 are, and a large part of the fandom, just seen as just a prequels levels abomination. It just needs to be torn out and redone.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to argue from where I sit now, having seen everything.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't agree with that. I think season 7 is largely good. There are a couple of missteps, as is the case in season 8. And, if you can get over those hurdles and you can forgive it, then I think, it's not awful TV, but it's not the best TV I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's for a lot of people, I think that there's very little reason to overlook the big flaws. It's if you're, I think there's a legion fan that's going to be okay, watch through season 6 and then maybe Alt Shift X or somebody else will cut a whole bunch of really cool scenes and try to tell a story, kind of do what me and Anthony are going to do next week, only think a lot. There's going to be months and years where people can think about how we can map some of the book stuff that we know onto these show things, and we, for better or worse, have a lot of this really cool kind of there's going to be bonus materials. There's going to be so much stuff to kind of assemble these little theses and documentaries. I think it's going to be a fun time to be a fan, but that's assuming that George continues to work on the books and we get this kind of active fan community that tries to do that. Because there's the other thing, I guess, if the fans just oh, fuck this and move on. I don't know. I feel where do you think the fan base is as far as the prequels and stuff now, Jim?
Oh, for Game of Thrones?
Are people as excited for the prequels as because maybe this is the disappointment, but maybe the prequels will add the new Wrinkle to the Night King or something.
I'd like to tell anybody who is disappointed by this that the prequels, they shouldn't have any bearing on the prequels. It's not going to be the same showrunners. It's not going to be the same stories. If you're let down by the end of this, I don't think you should give the prequels a pass just because, I didn't love Game of Thrones in the end, so forget the prequels.
It seems like fan bases are pretty resilient too. Like even though a lot of people were disappointed in like the Star Wars prequels, people still showed up for the next trilogy.
Yeah.
There's issues now I think with the state of but everyone the important thing is when there was a new kind of plot line and characters and a chance to visit the universe and look through a different, people were willing to do so, and I know I certainly am.
Kamish also says, is Sam Tarly the Lord of Hornhill and the Grand Maester? Why did he get a vote at the meeting if he's a Maester?
Good question. I'm actually not sure who's running Hornhill at the moment.
I think I don't think he was the Archmaester obviously in that point of the meeting. So my guess is that, but even if he was, the Archmaester still gets a vote in a small council. So I didn't have a problem with that.
He effectively replaced Pycelle, right?
Huh?
He effectively replaced Pycelle.
Yeah, but even then in that thing, it's like if he was just like Lord of Hornhill, he'd still been like the most. So yeah, I don't know. Like maybe is like, is there like some kind of Lord Protector or Steward that's looking over that house while Baby Sam,
could be
grows up?
Yeah,
and maybe he's going to be Lord of Hornhill after that. I don't know.
Eric says Bran is so good at communicating that he's going to make a great king.
He's just going to chase dragons and be the figurehead while the true power behind the throne, Tyrion and so on and so forth, will hold it down. It seems like he's got a pretty good small council, Bronn aside.
Right.
I mean, pretty solid. You can't go along with like Davos and Brienne and who else was on there? Sam, yeah, that's good counsel. It's one of the better councils in my memory.
Luca Darkwater says it seems like Bran 100% told Jon about his parents just to mess everything up so he could be king.
It does kind of. That's a valid reading, right? What if Bran is just ultra ambitious and saw this was his 1 in a million shot at being on the Iron Throne?
I mean, doesn't he essentially say that?
Kinda. Why
in
do you
this
think
episode?
I came?
Yeah,
that was pretty cheeky, Bran.
It certainly was.
Why the fuck you think I warged? This is why I warged all night at Winterfell. I was maneuvering this shit to happen.
Is it too early for Endgame spoilers?
Yeah. People are pretty. Although every week you fuckers don't make a point to go see Endgame. Your cries will fall on increasingly deafened ears. So you got another week or two before I'm like, yeah, it's just like when Thanos was stirring a stew pot and he took a shit in it, and that poisoned Captain America. It's just like that instance. Made you feel funny inside when you saw it.
Elizabeth says Drogon flying off with Dany felt like bad fan fiction.
You think so? I don't know. I'm gonna definitely have to take a second look at this thing before I have any definitive opinions on it.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was bold for them to take that scene right out of Breaking Dawn. You know, when
oh my god,
the werewolf dragon
is this
came
a Twilight movie
and,
reference
and carried Bella's corpse off.
Oh yeah,
after she died in childbirth to the Scarecrow.
It's definitely not too early for spoilers about that.
Yeah, we can definitely break that Dawn spoiler.
Rob says, so can we all agree that Dany's attack was premeditated based on Grey Worm's comments about Dany's command?
I mean, no, but I think, because again, the Double D's and a lot of the narrative in this episode made it very clear that Dany has just lost rationality, that this wasn't some premeditated, like, this is how I'm going to consolidate power. It's just a loss of control. So I don't know. I think that since then, since this thing, she's obviously given orders to Grey Worm, or maybe Grey Worm's just doing this unilaterally and knowing that what's Dany going to be. How would Dany say, "Hey, Grey Worm, you're acting crazy"? attacking these prisoners when she just literally emulated hundreds of thousands of civilians. So like, I honestly don't think there's anything textual to say whether this was Grey Worm just going rogue or whether he actually had a command from Danny or whether it's premeditated. I mean, you can make an argument for any of those things, I think.
Yeah, I'd be so much more inclined to believe that that was the case if the Double Ds hadn't gotten into Behind the Thrones or After the Thrones,
Right.
what the fuck ever, and said, no, this was 100% not premeditated. She got pissed off in the moment and burned
Right.
everyone.
She saw it as like
That's what they say. So,
Yeah.
like, if I'm not supposed to take the creators of a television show at their word, what the fuck am I even
since
doing?
I think that's the story they're telling on this film too. Like it's not
Yeah.
like, you know, like they do that a lot where it's like I think they film like Jaime raping Cersei and then they say, oh, this is consensual but complicated. Like, okay, sometimes they tell that story, but I actually buy that's what the story they were trying to tell. So, I don't know how to convince other people because it's a subjective medium and you can see something that I'm not seeing.
Doug says, so there's another continent, and wherever Arya is going, does that mean there's going to be a sequel spinoff with just Arya?
I would love to see Arya in the Westeros.
Why do we assume there's another continent?
Westeros.
Essos?
Yeah.
You're saying one that already exists. Okay. I thought you meant one where Arya's going.
Oh.
But
We don't
I mean,
know.
Arya might just sail off the edge of the world.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think one possibility for a story for a spinoff would be just following Arya, honestly. Mm-hmm. Like, Maisie Williams is so young, you could do 10 years with her on a TV show now if you wanted to. Have no problems worrying about, he's going to Anthony Hopkins her way out of Westworld or what?
Would that
I
be
know,
kind
he
of
didn't
cool
die.
to see her do like almost a Star Trek where it's like they go to a different land and island and strange beasts
Yeah,
and
what did she find there?
and
Maybe.
I don't know.
Tell an entirely new story, one that has no history.
Funny new gods with magic powers that it can't comprehend because that's a part of Star Trek. You got to meet the Q continuum or something like that.
Right.
You gotta have something mysterious that you can't understand, or it'd be kind of like a Kung Fu meets Conan the Barbarian, kind of wandering in this savage land type of deal.
Eric wants to know, what is the purpose of the Night's Watch exactly?
Have we not talked about this?
It's a penal colony
yeah.
now.
It's where they send people who do bad things in Westeros instead of killing them.
I don't know what's the motivation for the people there. Like it used to be that you were the defenders of the realms of men. Like I wish they got a new job, a new mandate, so it feels less like just a penal colony, but it does feel like feels like a kind of a joke.
Vicky wants to know why John was forced to take the black for being a Queenslayer when the Kingslayer suffered no consequences.
Because Grey
Grey
Worm was red-assed about it.
Yeah, compromised.
Like, honestly, as soon as he gets to Nath, they should just send the Raven up to John and be like, yeah, JK, come on down south. He'd be like, fuck you, loving it up north. But
We got grass now.
that's right, we have a blade.
We have a
The
single
north,
blade of grass.
now with a single blade of grass. Growing out of the 18-inch snowbank.
Josh says, I don't get why Grey Worm was just fine with having no input on the new king and queen and his new name. What was the deal with that?
I guess he knew he was going to bounce, right?
It is weird the emphasis on his Torgo Nudo kind of thing, because I don't think that's ever been a thing.
No.
It just got introduced, and
It was introduced in the scene where
That's
Tyrion's
just-
trying to convince her not
that's
to burn
not a
the
new
thing.
name. That's just literally Grey Worm in High Valyrian, and I don't know why they've started not translating it, and making that a thing, because it did feel like he's Grey Worm to everybody, but he's Torgo Nudo to his friends. Like that's, but that's what Dany's always called him when she's using High Valyrian, I presume. I thought that was a weird choice that they made the last 2 or 3 weeks to emphasize that.
Also, R plus L equals J meant nothing?
I mean, his Targaryen identity presumably allowed him to sneak past Drogon. He got 100 on his Targaryen score. Man,
Yeah, I mean, it caused a lot of turmoil.
yeah. I mean, Ice and Fire was required to beat, I guess, to bring about the conditions that you beat the Night King, and then the story, like the way the story is that, you know, what was the Night King's body count, right? Like, did he kill maybe 100,000, 150,000? Like, Dany had 3-4 times his numbers. So, like, the story is, like, we are always the greater threat. This is, like, you know, the Walking Dead's thesis, too. It's like the zombies are whatever, but it's always people and the shitty things they do to each other that's the real evil and the real threat in the world. But, you know, okay, what's different this time? That we're I don't know. This does feel a lot bleaker than I expected. This feels like a lot more bitter and less sweet than I was anticipating from the series.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, got to see it again, but I thought the end of this was mostly hopeful. I think Bran, you know, he won't say much, but I think he would be a good king. He seems very wise, much wiser than, you know, Tyrion's been over the last 2 seasons.
Right.
I guess I don't see a lot of downside for the Westerosi people. I almost view like Dany as part of the wheel she was trying to break in the end. Like,
does it feel like, here's another thing. Does it feel a little too glib that they're, no, I guess not. Cause like they decided they're going to always select a new leader here at this, like, you know, in the Dragon Pit. Cause I was thinking it's like, maybe it's like, okay, well, when Bran dies with that issue, or like, what if Sansa does? Like, it does feel like a lot of this was kicking problems down the road. I guess maybe that's why it doesn't read hopeful. Like, this didn't feel like a very stable political situation. You got one kingdom's broken off. It's going to be ruled by a king who is probably going to have a very poor grasp of, you know, compassion and empathy and all those other things. I don't
Sure.
So I guess he's going to be the puppet king, and the real power is going to be the hand, and that's probably always been true.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe this is the like most Game of Thrones ending you can get.
Rob says the best shot was John's walk of shame mirroring Ned Stark's. Did you catch
up
that?
the stairs, or
I think
when do you mean?
when he took the black when he was leaving. I'm not sure.
Oh,
He
when
didn't
he's leaving.
clarify.
I don't know. I didn't notice it.
Sheena says, I'm surprised Yara didn't ask for the Iron Islands to be a free and independent kingdom.
Yep. She will. And then Dorne, because, you know, they're unbent, unbowed, unbroken before it was cool.
And also, Sheena noticed that Rob and Aaron got kind of hot.
That's
got
like
bigger.
the most unlikely hottening since Neville Longbottom.
Right.
Holy cow. Same thing. Like that fucking cloak was working for that young man.
Oh, yeah.
Lord Protector, indeed.
DS Ganser says, what became of the letters that Varys ended up sending?
Did he send them? There's no evidence that he even sent them. Like,
Well, he sent him to the Dorne guy who showed up this episode, and his queen was dead, and he sent it to Yara, and the queen was dead. Like, I mean, yeah,
they just totally dropped that part.
Varys was the canary in the coal mine, except for the problem with being creeped out about Dany executing him is that was the punishment she said she would do for treachery. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't blame her too much for burning Varys, but I think the notes needed to go somewhere, and they didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, people thought that maybe the poisoning plot would go somewhere because he took his rings off, and maybe, but it had, and there's also, it's like, oh, maybe Jon won't have to be the person. It did feel a little anticlimactic when he just stabbed her. Like, she gave the whole, like, join me and we'll rule the galaxy as aunt and nephew, and then he's like, you'll always be my queen, and it was over.
Yeah. I kind of like the way, I guess, that they just sort of dropped the poisoning thing. It's
Yeah.
okay with me that it's like, okay, well, Varys tried.
Yeah.
He had his game he was playing. Dany
He didn't
put
have
an
to-
end to
yeah.
it, and that's that.
Yeah.
So I'm not too...
What do you think about Dany
sore
not
over
being
it.
able to say anything back? Because she, like, that, like, Jon betrayed her, and, like, 10 seconds later she was dead, and the way he killed her didn't let her speak.
I don't know.
I was hoping to
Second
see
viewing.
something a little, because, like, it looked like there's, like, a flash of anger, and, like, there's going to be, I felt like that's maybe why it felt anticlimactic, because Jon made his move. She had no moves left, but she didn't even have a Lady Olenna type of, tell Cersei it was me, like, one of the quieter power deaths we've ever seen.
She could have Dracarys him if
She could've
Drogon had got up there in time.
Yeah.
Just one last Dracarys.
Yeah, she could have Aquaman mental telepathy.
Right.
But Drogon said no. Mm-hmm. He judged Jon not worthy of being Dracarys.
Kamish says, how would Jaime and Cersei have died by collapsing ceiling, yet ceiling is still intact and somehow they're at the bottom of the pile?
Unfortunate.
Or at the top of the pile.
They got hit with a couple of bricks. Got them right in the heads. And
Yeah. If they wore hard
they
hats,
go.
they probably have been okay.
Actually, yeah. Probably. They would have. If they had... Oh, I don't know. If Jaime had had armor with a helmet on.
Up, but they'd still be alive down there for sure.
Yeah.
Why isn't Tyrion mentioned in the Song of Ice and Fire? He was the reason the war started being kidnapped by Catelyn. Neighbor says.
Because it made a really funny joke.
Right. That's the only... honestly, that's the only reason I can think of.
I mean, the person they should have given that joke to is Bronn.
Uh-huh.
Like, he would have been... That would have been... But yes, Tyrion, like... This fucking art maester that wrote this shit didn't do his job right if Tyrion is not in there at all. My God, the shit he pulled with Cat, the fact that he was kind of blamed, like one of the chief instigators or theories that the Cat's Paw, who hired the Cat's Paw and gave him the dagger, the fact that he was the hand under Joffrey.
The fact that everybody thought he murdered Joffrey, he did murder his father. Like,
yeah, and he went off to exile and then became the hand of the queen. That could come on, man.
There's no way he's not in that book.
Like,
I
give
think
that joke to Bronn, and it's fucking hilarious.
I think Sam is fucking with him.
I don't think Sam has that
it was
bone
when
fucking with
Bran
him
was
bone.
dictating the story back that he left it out just to fuck with Tyrion. Bran was
I
like,
think Sam's
and
fucking with him. I think Tyrion's in that book. He's got to be in that book. There's no way he's not in the book.
I don't know. Tyrion got Victarion in the in-universe A Song of Ice and Fire. That's pretty funny. He got collapsed in... Well, you know what they did? The Archmeister Ambrose, he collapsed Tyrion into... Tyrion and Tywin both into a
Single
composite character called Titus.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and just rolled with that. It's so confusing because one
Yeah,
was the
with
hand,
the other-
and then the father became the hand, but he was really acting hand, and then he killed him. That's not satisfying. Just mush him into one. Yeah.
But does that really help if you're naming the son Titus of the father Titus? Like,
I don't know. Is it really?
isn't Tywin's father named Titus?
I don't know.
And they have two Tituses. I don't know. Confusing.
Could be. Could be.
Jas says Tyrion's speech about stories sounded exactly like how GRRM would want his series to end, though. I thought that was straight out of his mouth.
Which one was that? What's
the
name?
Tyrion speech about his plea for Bran to be king and about how stories...
He's got the best stories. Oh,
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah. Which I don't, like I said, that's one of the reasons I'm not sure about it. It did feel very like something a writer would say.
Yeah, it's like in
Stories can heal the world, man.
it's like in Reign of Fire, where the only weakness to a dragon is the magic hour in the fucking movie they're making, right?
Yeah.
It's a little silly, but I'll let it by.
Jeremy R says, I wonder what Jorah would have said about Dany's decision to burn the city.
Khaleesi. Well, my answer, give me a chance. I don't know. He probably...
I don't think he would like it.
I will say that Jorah had a little bit of a moral, flexible framework. Like, he engaged in some light slavery because his
Little
lady
bit.
wanted some finer things.
They weren't great guys to begin with.
Right.
One of them
right.
didn't pay their taxes.
Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah, sure he sold slaves, but they had it coming. They were real shitbirds, all of them. So, I don't know. Of course, then, light slavery versus burning hundreds of thousands of people. Where does that sit on the balance of evil?
Josh says, anyone else remember when Bran said, I can never be Lord of Winterfell, I can never be Lord of anything, I'm the three-eyed raven?
Well, that was until he had all of Westeros.
That was all part of the plan.
That was all part of the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. If he had said
He had
anything, anything else at that point, people would have laughed and he would never been, but he was there playing the game.
Okay. One more.
Playing the Game of Crows.
Brandon says, how did anyone know Jon killed Dany? No one was in the throne room, and Drogon rode off with Dany's body. It would have made more sense to me if they conveyed Dany just disappearing in the aftermath.
Raptured.
Look, if you think that Jon did anything but come forward with tears in his eyes, throw the bloody dagger down at Grey Worm's feet and said, I did it! I killed the queen! I killed the queen! You don't know a fucking Stark boy. There's no... he was completely emotionally and intellectually incapable of doing anything but write a full confession.
Yeah.
For sure. Jon, yeah, he came down, he told him.
And to protect Dany's memory, he also agreed to sign the confession. It was his idea to burn all of King's Landing, and Dany actually was misled by him. He's taking it all on the chin. Taking it all on the chin.
Yeah. All right, that's it. That's all I've got.
Cool. We're going to be back on Tuesday for the full podcast. Yeah, we're going to have to say goodbye to Game of Thrones at some point. It'll probably be more for the wrap-up, though. I think we're going to, reminisce over the last 10 years in the wrap-up and really kind of just go back and revel in what a journey it's been, whether you loved or hated this ending.
Really looking forward to seeing their documentary. That'll be interesting.
I actually am looking forward to it. I hope it doesn't have the tone of patting everybody on the back and saying what an amazing job they did, because it's maybe not quite earned.
But if it's from the like what an accomplishment this is from everybody working together to do something, like there's a way they can congratulate people that just really gave a big part of their life to try, for better or worse, to bring this thing to life. And nobody's whose last name isn't Martin or whatever the Weiss or Benioff. Nobody without those last names you can really blame for this. I don't.
Yeah, for sure.
Like all the cast, all the crew, the majority of the directors, and like people really did heroics on this job, and I think they can take their hat off and round the plates on that basis for sure.
Yeah, so a little taste of it. We'll be back on Tuesday to really break open the episode, talk about the whole thing. And until then, I'm Jim.
I'm Aaron.
And I'm Cecily.
See ya.